How's it going, everyone? Eulier Gonzalez here, and in today's we're gonna fix now the layout for mobile, so we can now see our hospital dashboard in a way that is usable for the user. So we're gonna fix is the navigation as well, and also is the specifically this one, okay? Because this actually worked as expected on this kind of layout. Okay, so let me put it here. Responsive. Exactly. So how it's gonna look like in a Galaxy Note, or for example in an iPad. Okay, allegedly it's supposed to show like this. So this is not a nice layout, by the way. You can also show is that uh, one element after another. So patients, and then diagnosis history, then the profile, that kind of thing. And that's what we're going to focus our attention. So first thing first, we're going to take a look now at how you're going to look at the mobile and then on tablet and large screen. So first, let me actually is fix this particular layout here. So we're going to put all of this one after the another. Okay, and by that, as we now look at this particular section, where here we're gonna say, hey, I want you to now uh, make this as a flexbox, okay? Or we can say something like this. Initially, I want you to make this as one column, all right? But if this is actually a tablet screen, now you want to show is this. So this is how it's going to look like. And that's one of the powerful thing of using Tailwind. Look at this. We change our layout with one particular uh, instructions by indicating to the CSS, hey, this is what we want to tell using a tailwind behind the scenes. So we are essentially are telling through the browser layout, the grid, to say when we have this, or initially wants to be this like one column, no matter how many rows do you have. Okay? Uh, but this is when the Tailwind uh, wonderful thing when it comes to now define layouts, particularly when it comes to define different breakpoints, okay, is give us for us. So again, as a way to now automate that particular process. Hey, this is how it's going to look like on the mobile, and on tablet, and on desktop, and large screen. So if we now take a look at this as an iPad, it will show that as it is, which is great. Which is great. Actually, it looks pretty decent. Now, if you want to show elements here center, okay, you want to show center elements, we can do something like this. Hey, uh, for any elements, because here what we're saying is that I want you now to show this, for example, okay, I want you to now show is from this breakpoint and on this layout. So let me take a look now at Tailwind responsive, okay, responsive design, and indicate, hey, from this particular breakpoint and on, I want you to set this layout. So, targeting mobile devices, this is how you can do this. Mhm. Where this approach surprised people most often is that styles sometimes for mobile you need use to unprefixed version of utility like this. Don't think that's that. So use unprefixed utility to target mobile and override them at largest breakpoints. Exactly. So here the approach from mobile or the responsive approach is by starting is with the mobile first, and then you can change how it's gonna look like that. Because that's how this is now this mental model of tailwind. Uh, I want now to indicate is this how I want you to now apply this particular style from this breakpoint and on. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Targeting a breakpoint range. By default, styles apply rules like MD and flex apply at that breakpoint and stay applied at larger endpoints. If you like to apply a utility only when a specific breakpoint range is active, stack a responsive modifier like MD with a max modifier to limit that style to a specific range. Okay, so this is the following. Tailwind generates a responsive max modifier for each breakpoint. So out of the box, following modifiers are available like this. Media not all this. Targeting a single breakpoint. Okay. Targeting a single breakpoint. Interesting. Targeting a breakpoint range. Stack a response modifier like this. Max this is say media, not all, and min width this. This is the okay. This means that it will media not all, and min width is this. If we take a look at the media CSS, that's right, attributes for this. Uh, this is a rule on CSS that say, hey, the media CSS at rule can be used to apply part of the style based on the result of one of the more media queries. Okay, the media CSS add rules. There are statements, exactly, add rules. CSS is a statement that instructs CSS how to behave. Exactly. Okay, how to behave. And I think this is quite new to that. They begin they begin with a they begin with an at sign, commercial at, following by identify and include everything up to next semicolon. Okay, this is now CSS statement that instructs CSS how to behave. And then we have this the char set, the identifier, and the rule. Okay, define the characters used by the style sheet. Tell CSS engine to include an external style sheet and the namespace. There are several regular add rules designated by their identifier, each with a different syntax. Nested, a subset of nested statements which can be used as a statement of which style as well as inside of conditional groups. Media, a conditional group rule that will apply if its content is the defined meets the criteria of the condition defined using media query. So this particular CSS rule, which indicates how CSS should behave, in this case, how are the rules that you want to apply, in your case, media, okay? When this device meets certain criteria, I want you to apply this. So we have media. Usually we actually have a lot of the time with media. Scope is another one. Uh, Keyframe. describe the aspect of intermediate step in CSS animation. So hey, I want you to behave this, or I want you to apply this rule for animating, counter style, property, and layer. Declare a cascade layer and defines order of precedence in case of multiple layers. Conditional group rules. Media scope, starting, style, supports, and document. Most of the time, we use is media um, from all of this, chart set, font face, uh, keyframes, import, and media. This is what is going to be covered, the vast majority of them. Okay, the vast majority of the use case, which is this CSS rules. Hey, I'm gonna give you this statement that is gonna tell CSS how to behave. In this case, with our media. So media query is telling now the CSS how to behave when something happens. In this case, is that what are you gonna do? Okay, um, like this media. Wait, what? You got it exactly. So hey, I want you to now, based on this uh, condition or instruction here, based on these statements, I want you to now do this. For example, here on app color, you got it. This is the app bar. That's interesting. And you define that app here, that selector on hover, and it's here you are now defining is this, which is quite interesting. Uh, on hover, I want you to now do this. Change to lime green and make that transition to 1 second. Uh, Another is media, not all, and hover. You're gonna add that. Okay, not all. That's interesting. And hover, it will then. Mhm, you're gonna show this exactly. Which applying is the first one, and the other is that add a content for that. Oh, okay. National Aeronautics and Space Administration. And then you got to type in the title of that. That's interesting because this is a particular attribute from HTML. hmm So here you are selecting is this attribute, or in this case this component, this HTML tag, and say, hey, this is the initial value. And when on hover, I want you to do this. And for all of this media, not all, and hover, I want you to also show is this particular content from the title. In other words, take a look at what is the title property has from this HTML and show it. That's quite interesting. Uh, I am now more familiar with, hmm, I am now quite familiar with this. Media screen and min width. Support display flex. That's another interesting topic here. Hey, is this browser support this feature? Okay, this CSS or this app rules. Okay, that will indicate is the behavior. This that will indicate how CSS should behave here. Is this access? Okay, apply this. Mhm. Hmm. Hmm. So this is media type description. All print and screen. Intent primarily for screen. Suitable for all devices. And here, media features, pointer, color, all of the things that you can take a look. Okay. If grid exists, okay. Pointer, scan, update, logical operator, and not. Used to negate a media query, returning true if the query will otherwise return false. It presents a common separate lines of query. It will not generate the specific query to which it is applied. If you use not operator, you must also specify a media type. That's one of the reasons why saying here media not all, okay, media not all, okay, suitable for all devices. Exactly. Targeting a breaking point. Media not all and main with. Okay, so only apply this to this one. By default, style applies by rules like will apply at the breakpoint and still apply at larger screen. Okay, will apply to that endpoint and for those are okay. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we'll apply to that. Mhm. Okay. So in other words, the thing here we want to do is that uh, first let's going to start with blood pressure, and then we go to this one. So okay, we're gonna start with blood pressure here. Mm-hmm. So gonna start with blood pressure. When we define is this particular grid, it's a way to say, hey, yes, I want to make this grid as it is. Okay, we are defining is uh, initially three columns. We are defining initially three columns, which is kind of not what we want initially, really, right? In fact, we wanted to define this. You have one column as it is, which will be much more readable. It will improve that. And I want now to add to each one of those elements here is this. I want to add from each one of those elements this, a gap. So gap on G initially, I think it's this gap G, uh, 8. All right, that's right, exactly. So let me add now 12. That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. That's quite interesting. It doesn't exist. Okay. What about the gap here? Let's take a look now at gap. Okay. So we want us to add that gap initially on the z-axis. So by saying is gap G14, right? This is what we want to add to this uh, gap G14. It's saying it's not working. No problem. Perhaps 12. No, it doesn't have that. That's interesting. No, enough. Doesn't have that. That's quite interesting. What about X? Okay. Okay. Okay, no problem. This might be okay. Okay. It's most like it is because now this actually doesn't have that inherently. But this is how we want to make things work initially. Okay. It's because it's not okay. It's not generating that particular CSS for us. I think that's what happened. Okay, makes a lot of sense. We put it this way, okay, and then the other one, which will be this. But so far so good, right? So let's take a look now. We diagnose the history here, component, and yeah, diagnose the history here, component. Diagnostic history, okay, and here, this one, finish here, diagnostic history, but and here we go. Okay, so initially we want you now to show this as this. So grid one column. Okay, we want to show this on mobiles one after the another. Okay, uh, and the other is now saying I want to add a gap on the g-axis if I get that right. So the gap in the column here, column gap, interesting, column row, no, column gap is 14, right? So now when we render this component, when we call this, it works as expected. So far so good. Starting to look like quite decent, quite decent. What about 20? It's not changing that much. What about G? It's way much better. Exactly. So now it looks way much better. So it's because it's assuming that this is a row. Okay, gap G affect our rows, where gap G affects columns. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Remember that the mental model here is a grid, and the grid we're not thinking is in terms of available space or mathematical calculation here. We're thinking now in terms of slots. How many this matrix or this grid, how many columns do we have here? How many rows do we have? And let now the browser figuring out all of those computations for us. That's quite fantastic. That's why quite fantastic. Yeah, I must admit. All right. So far, this actually looks pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. We can make now. Um, yep. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. All right. When it comes to display here, okay. When it comes to display this, uh, when it comes to display this, we can say is show this hidden. Okay. Initially, and then you want to show that as it is. Exactly. Okay, you got it here. All right. So far, so good. Okay. On the code, take a look at this, and then we're gonna add this as it is. Right. All right. So this is actually how we're going to show now this particular car. Perhaps this content actually is way too close to each other. Okay. And we want to now provide some sort of gap there, which is what we're gonna do here by saying, hey, because now this content we're gonna show is as a row, we want to provide some grid. We want to provide some gap between this uh, grid initially as a mobile. So let's get to it. Let's get into it. You say, hey, gap on the row, the way how you tell to Tailwind that it has to instruct to CSS that this is the gap that rows will have is by doing this. Is by talking to the x-axis. Gap.g uh, 8. You're supposed to apply that. or G. Well, so it's actually not applying that, no problem. But we can find is where is this inner code? That's right, and then provide now the gap to the column. I mean to the row. Exactly to the row. What will be the gap between them? As 8, right? So we reload this. Now it looks like much better. Way much better. Ooh, you don't have idea. It actually looked way much better. It actually looked way much better. All right, that's good. That's good. So now let's go to actually deal with this section as a way to say, hey, you know what? This particular section, now we want us to show initially all of these elements in this particular order, one after another. Okay, stack them. Good. How can we do that? Well, by initially say, instead of showing that as a column 3, show them as one column, okay? And I want each one of those elements that you're rendering in this column, uh, each after the another, one after the other, I want you to now is to, in fact, actually detect this, uh, search for that, okay? And saying initially it will be is 1, okay? That's what I want you to do. Initially you will be 1, and I want to now each one of those elements be center. Center those elements, which is items, items, or justify items center, and then you kind of get it this, um, which is might be the behavior that you want, but after all you want is to all of these elements actually take the available space, okay? So might not be the way you want to do this, because you want us to now communicate to each one of those elements inside of that to center the content, okay? So one way to do that is by saying, hey, I want you to now make all of these elements to the center, okay? Or by saying, I want now to margin out of here, which is exactly what it's doing, but we want to take all the available space here, right? So this is when the tricky part comes in. We can leave it as it is. I think that'll be something good. This actually doesn't affect dramatically how this element is going to look like. So initially, we can safely say this, and it's actually going to look as expected. All right, which is great. So far, so good. Uh, the thing might be now is on iPhone 11 or in small iPhones, it's gonna show all of this content like too uh, too shrink. You know, how can we fix this? You may wonder. Well, there is a text here that allows to do that by saying is text wrap mode. It's a way to wrap the text. It seems that doesn't work at this level. Perhaps text and it doesn't work at this level. It's not supported in the following browsers. Okay, that's kind of ugly to know. Text shadows. Okay, so it seems that this particular feature doesn't are not supported. Uh, but no problem. Okay, no problem at all. Text wrap here, or text pretty. In one particular case, for the diagnostic list. hmm And now, when we take a look at the diagnostic list mock data, particularly diagnostic list, okay, and by now, here's when we're going to say, hey, I want you to now, to each one of those tables, show this particular content as it is. Can you? Even the text pretty is put in there, this thing is like still working. In tables, because now we're working with tables, table layout fix, word wrap, break word. Word wrap. Okay. By word. Interesting. Word wrap that. Okay. Okay. Tailwind word wrap. Word wrap. Exactly. Break normal or break words or by break words. So now I'm telling to the CSS, hey, instead of showing this text as it is, I want you now to show this text and break that by word. Okay, which is something that is doing here. But the problem is that we can say break 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 normal. But it's because the text is too close, you know. So he is breaking down properly. So because particularly this word is too big, okay. Particularly this particular word is too big. It's like that's what happened. Hypertension. Why does it stay? Exactly. Oh, hmm. Okay. So now things looks much more better. Perhaps we have some issues here, like this, and I want you to now split this like so. Problem or diagnosis. We're not you're supposed to break that much better. Exactly. That's right. Come on. All right. Things are looking quite good here. And here is actually good. Awesome. So no problem here. And here it actually looks awesome. Looks great. So we fixed that. Okay. So this was just to fix this layout, right? So we uh, fix mobile layout. We commit this. Okay. Now I want you to go to larger. For example, the kiddo. How it's going to look like. In fact, this actually looks pretty decent, pretty good. Okay. As a way to show this, like so. It's actually show that uh, pretty good, by the way. And now when it comes to actually define some bigger layouts, okay, which means is that layouts on desktop, okay. Now is when the times comes to say, hey, I want you to now show these elements here, okay, but in a grid, okay. Now in a grid diagnostic diagnosis history, but I want you to show this in a grid, pa, 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 but in a grid, okay, for larger screen, but in a grid where I want to set now three columns. So columns three, that's one of the powerful things of this, because now things started to look like this, okay? Totally. And not only that, okay, okay, and not only that, but when that happened here, now, okay, when you change that breakpoint, for example here, now here, I want you to show me in this particular uh, order. So now that we said that this is the number of element that we want to show, this is the number of column we want to show, okay? Then inside of those, I want you to now define is the width element, especially for the element that we want to show here, especially for this element here, which is this particular width, okay? So instead of taking, mhm, 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 okay. So we use to now show only this on large screen, okay? Exactly. The problem is that they are now overlapping based on this. Okay, all right, okay. So exactly what happened is that when this change, okay, so here we wanted to say, hey, this particular element that you have here, not this, especially this one. Hmm. Okay, I see what is happening here. I see what's happening is that they are getting is the all available space from that. They're not respecting is this. Hmm. Okay, let's make this a grid. Okay, let's make this a grid. What I want now to show is this as it is. I want to show this element here. Okay, and I'm not going to show this as it is. In fact, I'm gonna tell you this. Okay, in fact, I'm gonna tell you this to do something like this. Okay, first thing first, let me actually identify is this one. To start to work on this and say, hey, when this happens, I don't want you to be a flexbox, which is great, but you get some trouble. You give it you give it to me some trouble. In fact, I want you to be a grid that initially, okay, I want you to show this as flexbox. In other words, I want you to show this as two elements here, but using a grid approach. And that is, let me define now two columns in one row. Okay, let me define is uh, call call span. I mean grid 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 span is grid calls two. Okay, and with one row grid rows one. All right. I want you to make this with a height of 12 pixels. And now I want that this content, the content itself, is being, you know, one at the top, one at the start, and one at the end. So the alignment of this is justify items, uh, justify item self, or justify item, justify items in. If I do this, kind of the behavior that we want, as you can see here, kind of the behavior that we want. But as we increase that, it's not that specifically that we want, because if we want us to now actually is justify that by saying justify between. I don't know if you already have that auto star text justify, and specifically by saying it's justify between. No, because it says, I don't recognize that instruction that you're giving to me. In grid doesn't work that way. If you already passed that, you say justify. Let me actually, in fact, take a look at the grid CSS. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I want now to define is the layout for that. So for example, how this element will gonna look like. Exactly. So how these elements will gonna look like. How's the alignment? How's the alignment? So Yeah, what is the alignment? And hmm, yeah, what is the alignment? Yeah, what is the alignment? Hmm. Great. Yeah, because I want to know how to see it, how to indicate to the elements, to each one of those elements inside of the grid. Hey, I want you to know one of them be at the top and then be at the other. I think I'll need to talk directly to the row. Something tells me that. Something tells me to do that. Yeah, I think I need to actually talk directly to that element. Computed values, template rows, percentage, and the initial value. Grid template rows, and the animation type here now. You can add animation. That's interesting. Computer value, grid column. But when it comes to talk to each one of them, okay, as a way to track a list of each one of them. Um, but when it comes to actually talk to each one of those elements inside of that, uh, I think that I need to, or one way to work with this is by saying, hey, you know what? Um, let's make this here to be vertical aligned. No? Okay, no problem. Let's make here to say text align center. Exactly, because now we're talking about is this as a block element. All right, similar to this. All right, now you stick with that. Hmm. And then you say justify content, justify in. Exactly. Okay. So the idea here is that treating each one of those as a flex, you know. So by treating that as a flex, okay. So by treating this as a flex, in this case, actually, it, it should work as expected. Okay. So you're gonna render these elements at the top of this, which is kind of the thing that we want. But here we want to now render is uh, instead of the item centers here, I want you now you to render this as it is. That's right. Item center might be the way. Uh, okay, and then we say justify sender or justify n, justify star. Let me now take a look at how you can justify elements using here. So justify. Oh, it has to be. But this is on a grid. Exactly. But what if you want to justify its content as the main axis? But this is on a flexbox. Exactly. So this is on a flexbox. But in my case, I want you now is to align them at the end. Justify end. Okay, so justify. I think they don't have that. That's what happened. But no problem. Okay. So now we take a look at that. And here we say, hey, I want you to now um, we can work this with the flexbox, which will be not bad, and say, hey, I want you to exactly keep it the item sentence, but the content I want you to put it at the end of that. So far, so good. That makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. You can even remove this. All right, so way to don't fix that. Okay, but I want you to now do this at the end, at the start. I mean, exactly. And yeah, well, here you can add some padding here, some margin. That's a way to show this element as expected and align. Right. So this is how you can work with Flexbox. But again, it's quite odd to work with Flexbox in this particular fashion. I really don't like it now. No longer need to work with that. And in fact, we're adding is this little extra space here. You know, we're adding this little extra space here. It's quite redundant. I mean, yeah, that's right. So might be good, might be good. As it is. But again, it's way too much space. But it's because he wants to balance is with all the available space that we're providing to. And now it comes to another challenge here. Okay, makes sense. Okay. The idea here is that particularly since we're working it with a grid here. This actually won't work. All right. And not only that, let's make this as a grid, bro. Grid. Okay, let's make this a grid where here you're gonna have is this element here. This is this, or you can say this. Let's make it a paragraph here. Okay, but saying that it is something much more meaningful to the browser as a way to say, hey, this grid that I'll have is two columns. No, this grid that I will have is one column here, but you have to have two columns here. Grid calls two, one after the other. Okay, this is the way how it's gonna look like. So it say, okay, yep, this is how this component actually should look like. So far so good. Yep, no problem at all. Um, the thing here is that uh, it's actually rendering properly, which to me is quite good. But the problem with this approach is that uh, we're treating each one of those elements as a grid, whereas in fact we want to treat them as one single column. You know what I mean? And we want not only treat them as a single column, we want to treat them one next after the another. In this case, you know what I mean? We want to treat now this grid as two of them. So whatever you are rendering here, okay, whatever you're rendering inside of here, I want you to render now. This is a grid that will have is these two columns. As you can see here, it'll have not only this, but also uh, yeah, it'll have only this. Yep, it'll have only this. And inside of this, exactly, blood pressure, and the other element. And because of that, we wanted to have them show them as two columns here, as it is. That's great. The problem with this approach is that when we want to, for example, now align elements inside of that, such as here, we don't want you to treat that as one. Uh, we would like you to treat that as one single column. You know what I mean? By saying something like this, I want you to treat this as one single column, and it's in there, okay, where we're going to add this particular component as it is. Now this is how we want to try to treat this component as it is. The thing is that, hey, okay, now you're good to go. Uh, you're in fact at one grid, okay? But because the normal flow of this element, especially using a span, that this span actually now can't be beside that, uh, we want now to show this element perhaps as a flex, which is actually uh, quite more convenient. And then you say, hey, let me now do something like this. Let me put the content here, uh, but at the end, which is there. So this actually works as expected. We don't need in fact require some additional trickery, none of that things. Uh, what we can do is to try to, since this content is actually provided by us by default, we don't have in fact the ability to modify that as this item item center. You put this here as it is, right? You can also try to append the content there by saying, hey, I would like you to make this as a flex and align items to the center. In this case, center, yeah, align middle is item centers, items centers, and you got this kind of thing, all right? Something like this, okay? And you may wonder, this like, why do we have this additional space here? This may be the way to go. Okay. All right. So this actually starting to work as expected for this. So far, so good. Which is so far, so good. Now, when it comes to actually making this responsive as a way to don't overlap like this, which is very, very ugly. Okay. It seems that when we are loading is the content there, so for example, if you want to serve that to an iPad, this is how it's going to look like, which is not bad. Actually, it's not pretty bad. Okay, I mean quite the opposite. Okay, exactly. So quite the opposite. All right. Okay. So this is now it's going to how it's going to look like this in an iPad. Here we April surface that kind of thing. Okay. So it's actually it's going to look like quite decent, by the way. It's actually going to look like quite decent. But when we want to, for example, say a laptop, you know how it's going to look like, which is kind of what we want. In laptops, it's going to look like this. But now it is time to actually say, okay, how are we going to fix this? Especially here. Because initially we wanted to show that, but when this now pass certain breakpoint, I want you to show this grid, but as three columns, this as it is. And is that from the breakpoint and on. Okay, and is that for breakpoint and on. And I want now is to show, I want you to now remove this, it's not only that section, okay, so padding X, the padding top, we're gonna give is now padding on G, but in padding top, we're gonna give 5, and I'm padding bottom only 2. But here, for some reasons, we are now providing too much padding here. But here we're providing too much padding, you know? Okay, but initially we wanted to indicate that, hey, I want you to make this particularly container, this box, as like this. To once you have now certain, when you pass down certain breakpoint, I want you to is do this for me, and that is once you pass now certain breakpoint for desktop, now I want you to show this element, this bar diagnosis, as something like this, such as um, yeah, such as this. It's like this LG grid, where here we're gonna do is grid dot code. I want you to show them as 3 columns as it is. But I don't want you to know, for example, is that margin top, margin bottom, that kind of thing. You know, please only show that on small screen, not on bigger screen. You know what I mean? So in other words, this might be affect is this thing here over there. Okay. And if we take a look now at stuff like that, It actually you don't require to have that or any of these class entities, right? Because now we are successfully is adding is a proper margin button that it needs to. Similar to the diagnostic history list. So in fact we don't need to actually add this margin button and that kind of thing. You may wonder why is that? Or do we? Yes, we have to. The we can now is the we can now is add this, especially here, especially here, especially here by saying, hey, if you recognize this as a grid, okay, please make initially add a gap to each one of those columns because at the end of the day we wanted to add that as a as a row. My bad, as row of 8. Let's make that as it is. But quite frankly, we don't need to actually add that. Quite frankly, we don't need to add that, by the way. But this will have is column as it is. Initially, of course, initially, of course, okay, and we're patient, bro. We're patient, let's go. That's quite fucked up. Where in the heck this go? Diagnostic history, diagnostic list, and Jessica Taylor. So this actually works as expected because we define this as a grid, and then we define this as a grid with one column initially. So here we're saying is that, hey, initially we're going to show all of this as one column, okay? Uh, but then, but then, I want you to now show this grid column as three column, as four column, by the way. Exactly, as four column, exactly, as four column, as it is. But initially, we need to show that as just one column. But the thing is that patients go away. What the heck is this? And Jessica Taylor is this. Okay, let's go with the initial layout here. Okay, by saying, hey, first I want you to show all of these elements one after another. Okay, first things first. It seems that there is some component that is not getting shown. Okay, so for example, like patient list. That's quite weird. Uh, this is happening because it's being added. It's being added to that. Okay, but here I want to say, hey, let's make the gap here initially be something like this. Okay, there you got it. So far so good, no problem. And as you grow, it actually has that particular thing. It has this gap, which is exactly what we want, the behavior that we want, right? This is exactly the behavior that we want. However, when we are on small screen here, for some reason, it's like, okay, it's like overlapping that. No problem. And it's because we're using a patient list, perhaps with some additional stuff here. And I want you to only render this element as a grid, one column. That's all. Okay? One grid, one column, that's all. Where here it says, yes, that's great. However, I'm going to show that is behind the scenes. Unless I have to explicitly say, hey, I want to know the row will be one. So for some reason, it's not assigned in the proper. We're not giving the proper space to this initially, which is quite weird. Oh, because accounting is in there. Hmm. It's like we have to say, hey, this will be a grid. And for some reason, that's to me quite interesting. It's not showing that properly. And also Jessica, and also profile here is not showing them as expected. Hmm. It's like I need to say initially row. Hmm. Okay, I don't want to dedicate too much time to this because this is something that patient list. What if I remove this row here? It's because this content is static. It's because this content is there. Anyway, okay. If that actually works as expected, don't even change that. Okay? Don't even change that. Don't even change that. Just go charge. Just go change. We're gonna make it easy as much as possible for ourselves, and that's it. You Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. In diagnostic history. Definitely. Okay. Anyway, okay. Oh, it's because I get it. Exactly. It's because this not far. Okay, that's another challenge here. So this is with the nav bar. Okay. Oh, okay. But this is because this is because how we are now using is the nav bar. Oh, okay. This is because the way how we are defining is our nav bar here, and that makes a ton of sense. And that makes a ton of sense. Completely. Oh, okay. Okay. But now the layout failed is because of that. Navbar, tailwind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. So this is now to fix is the fix the sign. So what happened is that this navbar is for this large screen. Okay. Okay. And patience is the full go. Okay. So for some reason here, you're getting this and say, hey, this is now the main grid here. Okay. So here you say, let me define this with two columns, where in my case, I want you to define this as with initially one column. Oh my God. Makes sense. So we can say, let's simply start with a flex and the flex wrap, and then from this point, yes, we can define other particular grid. But it will be from large point. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Is here. which means that I can now show is all of the content justify center, which is great. And then when you pass certain points like this, now you might consider to evaluate to show this as it is, as grid. Where here you say, hey, you know what? Let me show now this as it is. The problem with this is that when I try to show this, it's gonna show them as expected. Okay, but all of this content is not gonna show that beautifully. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. So actually this is our layout. This is how we're gonna show this layout as it is. But the problem now is with the navbar. So fix layout or responsive layout as it is. So now this is the responsive layout here. So this is one responsive layout, and then one that started to grow. Exactly. This navbar break everything here. Okay, no problem. No problem at all. This navbar break everything here. So let me now define another navbar here. By saying is the navbar uh, test.tsx. Okay, and what this navbar will do is this. It's gonna replace this navbar with navbar test. I'm not sure if we're actually returning that or if we indeed returning something. Let me now use this from the React code where here they install some couple libraries here, okay, specifically the headless UI React. Mm-hmm. So a way to install this is to say, hey, headless UI here from the React. Okay, let me now install this. when we run this, and then we define here no layout. Hey, I want you to now show this navbar test navbar test. Okay, and I want you to now export this navbar test. Okay, and render it. Okay. So we are now able to see if that particular navbar, right? You say, hey, there is some couple error here, model cannot found. This one, we really need them. Hero icons here on React. Let me install them here for this demo. Okay, as a way to fix this. Maybe and run this. Now they compile it, they say no, function error are not valid as child component. This may be returning children here. This is in this particular component. Okay, it's like it needs this function is inside of this. Maybe when you reload this. Again, the whole point of this is to render this nav component. But it's telling me that, hey, no, I don't allow you to use it because the argument of TypeScript is not assignable to a parameter any. Oh, because it's a, okay, string. Okay, okay, okay. Yes. Okay, this is inner logic here. Okay. Uh, exactly, almost. Because you say this might happen is because of this, or you meant to call this function rather than return it. I meant to call this function. Infer the value, bro. Infer the value. Infer the value. Infer the value. Okay. It's like you're not giving me is the proper navigation here that works as expected. And that's quite bad, bro. That's actually quite bad, bro. It's actually quite bad for your part. Because it's telling me, hey, error functions are not a valid, functions are not a valid as child of client component unless I have to explicitly say, hey, this is use client. Otherwise, you might know that this is client that will be only, this is the particular code that you want to use on the client. So please don't complain about it. Next. Okay? And next now say, okay, I'm not complaining, but I will render. Please save that. Okay. I want to notify to Next, hey, this is the use client component I want you put in there. And if I reload this, that's right. So far so good. This is the navbar that we want to actually show. Okay? Exactly. 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 Totally as it is. Okay. So, mhm. Now let me tweak this. Let me tweak this as it is. That's all. Yep. Now let me tweak this as it is. So let's go to start now with the navbar. By first adding is the proper elements that we want to, okay? By adding is the proper icons and elements to there. And that is, here let me now render is all of this component if it is, like this one for example. So first I will need to get that data, for example like route. Let me add that on my utils here like route.js, or no, let it there, be there. Let that leave there, which is navigation. We're not going to actually in fact do something nasty or different. Okay, we're gonna remain the same data structure. We might import each one of those components as it is. Please, can you import them? Import a component. Import root component. Uh, calendar component. Chat bubble and credit card icon. Okay. Okay. I think that the hardest part was to convert all of these icons into that. So, okay. So here's what you're gonna show is this. So far so good. Okay. So far so good. Cool. Now we want us to make that this actually match the design. For example, let's going to start with the background here. So our background is a part of the disclosure, which is this. I don't want you to show the disclose as this. In fact, as white. Okay. Show them as white. That's great. Okay. And also the background as well. And then let me do something quite interesting in terms of the navigation. So because our logic from this navbar was pretty much like this, adding now but this particular icon here as an anchor tag, which that's exactly what we're gonna do here. You're gonna add this an anchor tag or that. But the only thing that you're gonna change is perhaps this. If the item is current, okay. So if the item is current, in our case is true patient, what you're gonna show is now this particular layout. This is what we want you to show. Is all of these classes. Right? Makes sense. That's great. That's powerful. Okay? If not, okay? If not the current, well, show that as it is. No, which is with all of this. Like this. Okay, so far, so good. And it's exactly how do we want to show this? How do we want to show this? That's an overview, patient, the kind of thing. All right. And also, I want you to render if this particular anchor tag, which is um, which is this as it is. Oops. Right, let's get to show this now. Item name. Before the item name is this item.svg icon, and that's it. But because we want to show this now one after the another, okay, I want to show is this as a flex, or particularly here as a flex here as a flex. That's right. You can now show all of these elements one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. That's right. Pretty much is this. Is this is the behavior that we want. Now let me actually match the design because what we're doing is just white labeling. Never forget about that. So you're going to find that now is the we want to make this round full. That's right. And along the way, we also want to do is this. We'll take tailwind exactly, but here we want to show is now is our own component, which is a test logo. All right, so instead of this, we're going to show is a test logo. And please help me to import that. There you got it. So far, so good. Actually, something powerful. Totally, totally, totally powerful. Okay. So you may wonder, yeah, but exactly because now it's rendering is this particular elements here. it's rendering is their elements, not our elements. You know what I mean? So menu item, okay, where in our particular case, we want us to again navigate through all of these elements and to render all of these elements here by saying that's great for one element, but in our particular case, we want us to do this. We want to now iterate through all of that, but follow this particular approach, which is we're going to now iterate a menu item here that'll be wrapped a anchor tag, okay, with this particular properties. From the index. Oh, it's because menu item. Mhm. It's because menu item explore this. Oh, I get it. It's because menu item explore this. That makes a lot of sense. Mhm. That's quite interesting, by the way. Okay. Spacing schedule message. Exactly. But now the proper class we want to add is this one. Especially this one. Especially this one, bro. It's because I'm focused, bro. Exactly. It's because of this. It's because this exactly. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So this is part of the design here. Now things started to look way much more better. Way much better. We can just also remove those elements from there, especially those that are there here, like view notification. In fact, we don't want to show this element from the view notification. We instead want to show is this one, the settings and the icons here. The settings and the icons here on the notification. Tell me to import that settings and the icons. Oops, come on. It's quite interesting. Okay, H6 it was okay. Makes a lot of sense. The thing is that because we're not passing since we're not passing this as props down, we need to indicate that this is as props here, especially class name. For example, settings, because this is the way how you can pass down props here, and then indicate at that particular layer, hey, it'll be like this. And the same for not only for the settings, but also for the menu icon, where he's going to receive this props, and we're gonna pass now the props to that SVG tag in this case. Okay, so far so good. This is supposed to work as expected. We will run this. Does not, doesn't matter. But we are indeed passing is that component class and that kind of thing, right? Not sure why this is actually showing as black. Oh, might be okay. Makes a lot of sense. It's because we are showing them as just icons there. Good. And we want to show them, but after the end, the other side of that, which, all right, so we can do it something like this. Let me do is something like this. This will be for the settings. There will be another button here. Uh, I'm going to remove all of this shit. I'm going to remove all of this shit. Okay, just a single bloody button uh, for that. But in this case, to show is the menu icon here, right? And there you got it. Cool. But I want you to show them is right after this particular menu here that is shown. You know, yeah, this particular menu that is shown. Where that's right, that's right. Um, so what we can do here is something like this. Is to actually doing this white labeling as it is for you. And not only that, we also would like to add is um, yeah, we also would like is to add the transition, that kind of thing, part of the menu. Exactly, this is part of the menu. Mm-hmm. In that name and that tag and that kind of thing, which is different, right? Okay, so we're gonna show is that as it is right next to that, exactly right next to this particular image. Is this one? This is the profile. Yep, completely, exactly. Because I said all of this is a huge bottom, and in our case, we don't want to show for the bottom itself. We want to show is right after that we get this. But what happens is that we need to now indicate that this will be is a flex. So now it shows the element right after that, which is great. So far, so good. You know. And not only that, I would like you to make those this particular element close to each other. I don't want why they are so away from it. Like, do they have to fear in each other? What is the fear? You know what I mean? Why do they have so much fear? No, that shit. Okay. But I want now is to this is part of the transition, the menu, as I want to show this as setting and that kind of thing. But I don't want you to show them right there. You know what I mean? I would like you to show them close each other. So for example, like this. In fact, I would like to show them even closer than that. I would like to show them close each other, you know. And now you're in there, okay? And I know you for some reason. That's gigantic amount of text. Okay, so far so good, no problem. But it's like you're taking too much space. And not only the necessary space, exactly, which is at the end of the day, that's exactly what I want. So it's here. Oh, and because of that, mhm, that actually doesn't fix that thing here, especially for this bottom. So we can do, especially for this bottom, which is making all of the content there, okay, as it is. Exactly, which is at the end of the day, we don't want that. We want is to also pass down this image here as a way to say, hey, I would like to put all of this content, all of this image is right next to each other. That's all. Oh, I get it. Okay, it's because we crashed the functionality. And it's because the functionality comes along with it. Okay, it's because the functionality comes along with it. Okay, it's because the functionality comes along with it. Mm-hmm. Flex here, exactly. And now you want us to make all of these icons here that we define that we want to add then is right next to each other. But for some reason, it actually breaks that and adds some unnecessary amount of shit for that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they all are in that flex. So now this is a flex, exactly. This is actually a flex. Mhm. That makes a lot of sense. Is because now, okay. Oh, you can say that this will be a grid with one column and two rows. Say grid called one and grid row one. So by saying that, you can now shrink them. Exactly. So in other words, you're going to use this as shrink that for that. We reload that. We now fulfill actually the design. We're going to add some padding to that, or in this case, some margin. Okay, to get as a way to not be so close to each other. As a way to not be so close to each other. Okay, and now let's going to add this divider here, this particular element here, which is not a divider that will gladly enter here, since this is now a uh, a div with a class name of 1 pixel, main age pixel, all right, and then I think this 8 pixel exactly, and then let's make that element the color of background gray like that, okay, and that's all. That's it. That's it. So now that we add that element there with a, I mean, with a width of 1 pixel, now it'll look like there. You can also, in fact, perhaps give a little bit more. This is a way to see that we are actually doing something, providing the proper space for that. As you can see, is this. There's a tiny little line there, and if we want to make it more visible, you can say black. So now it's drawing that, which is great, which is great. This one is now drawing that, so it's gonna make that dotted, no, dotted. So in other words, we instead of doing that, we're gonna say is at the border. Let me say that. But in here, we're gonna say is at the border. Um, exactly. The border spacing will be that. The color will be border color, border, exactly. Now border, something like this. So instead of now using it the width, we're gonna use it the border. For that, all right. Let me keep now here the border here, as well as their background as black, as a way to see them, and saying, hey, that the border spacing, in this case, it won't be the border spacing, it's more like the border. There you got it, exactly. And there you got it. Something like that. It can be just only one, it can be only just one or two. Okay, border. This is the opacity is the border width. Does that exist? Okay, so border. Interesting. Let me in fact take a look at the border. But this is border spacing, border collapse, or border width. Exactly, border width. Alright, say border. Makes sense. Border. And then you got it. With the proper padding there. And that's right. And there you go. We can add some spacing here for them. Let's say padding on X is 2. It's a way to add more space to them. And that's all. That's one of the lovely things of this is that it allows you to control in a very finer way what are you going to do, bro. In a very finer way, what are you going to do, bro? In a very finer way, what are you doing and how you do it. So now here in our in on the layout, okay, we can say, hey, the navbar test, which is here on the page. That's right, that we add this particular layout to work on mobile, and then on the other one to work as expected, which is great. That's powerful, bro. That's powerful. Totally. That's powerful, bro. Oh, oh, for the navbar is this one. Why not is loaded like that? No, 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 JLT. Oh, what the heck is this? Okay, so now this component here is actually rendered like as it is. Nope, you shouldn't render in that particular way. Oh, okay, something, okay, something, okay, I get it. Yeah, something wrong is happening here. But this is like, okay, this is against this. Hmm. Okay. 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 Hmm. Great call. No, I think it's five. Okay. Hmm. Because it's really resizing here. Okay. Mm. We're breaking the normal flow of this. Mhm. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, because here you are setting that, and that's not quite kind of the thing that we want here. Okay. Mhm. Flex wrap. Well, you can solve this issue by saying this. Put this grid and say, hey, there will be is grid calls 5. Okay, you can say it's a grid that only has this grid called to. Okay, where now the second element here, you want now this second element to say, hey, are you going to take the all available space here? Or by overriding this particular behavior. Okay, because you inherit that, you say, okay, now let me this justify center. And that's the way how you want to show this kind of thing. Mhm. And that's the way how you would like to show this. Because here you're not taking all the available space needed. Okay. So somehow you need to actually pass down that or to indicate that, hey, this will be is full weight, bro. Because it's your parent that has that. Exactly. It's because your parent that has that information for you. So you can do this. Alright. Okay. So far so good. Yep. Actually work as good as possible. The only thing is that, well, it shows that. because it's not at this level. It's at this level. No, it's not at this level. Oh, because you're applying SSL, this is shit called stretch. Hmm. You wanna work here with margin here, by the way? Okay. Then round. And then round. That's right. Cool. Cool. Totally. which is great, bro. That's quite interesting here. Because here we're adding is oh, I think it's this is inside of this car. So we're adding is this extra gap here. Is in fact part of the. And then we're adding is this spacing here. Why in the F are we adding that thing? Hmm. It's quite interesting because this is part of the car itself. There's a way to expand to take all the available space. It's like, it's about the layout at the layout level. This is it at the layout level. Okay. Not sure. Can you add this thing here? All right. All right. Okay. So now this is the last design to make it responsive. Okay. Make it a design responsive. Holy hell. So that'll be all for this video. Take care. Bye bye.